Good evening, drivers. Tonight, we're talking about something truly magnificent, something so grand, so ambitious, it could only have been named by a man who thinks the best way to describe something is to just add more adjectives. I'm talking, of course, about Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, or the OBBB. This isn't just a bill, it's a legislative behemoth, a sprawling epic that promises to rewrite everything from your taxes and family benefits to healthcare, defense, and even how we power our homes. The OBBB is being sold as a magic bullet for the American economy, a cure-all that will make everyone richer, stronger, and presumably more beautiful. It's a sweeping proposal that touches nearly every facet of American life. On the surface, it promises tax cuts and family-friendly perks, which, let's be honest, sounds pretty appealing. Who doesn't want more money in their pocket? But, and with a bill this big, there's always a but, so just a little digging into the details will reveal a much more complicated picture. This isn't just about a few extra dollars on your paycheck. It's about fundamental shifts in who gets support and who pays the price. We'll break down the key provisions from permanent tax cuts to deep slashes in social programs and explore how this one big, beautiful bill could reshape your world. So buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy and likely very confusing ride. All right, let's start with the headline act, the main event, the part of the bill designed to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, making the 2017 tax cuts permanent. You remember those, right? The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act? It was supposed to be temporary, like a pop-up shop for billionaires. But the OBBB wants to make it a permanent fixture. And for many people, especially service and hourly workers, this means the lower tax rates and higher standard deduction would stick around, translating to more take-home pay each week. And that's genuinely good news if you're trying to stretch a paycheck to cover rent, groceries, and the ever-increasing cost of just everyday living. And for those in the middle and upper middle class, particularly in high-tax states like New York or California, there's another little treat. The bill would raise the cap on the state and local tax, or SALT deduction. This was a hugely controversial part of the original law, which capped the deduction at $10,000, causing a lot of financial pain for homeowners in certain areas. Lifting that cap is a direct appeal to suburban voters, a way of saying, we hear you, and we agree, paying taxes on the taxes you've already paid is, to use a technical economic term, a bit rubbish. So on the surface, this chapter is all about financial relief, putting more money back into the pockets of a broad swath of Americans, from the person serving you coffee to the person who can afford a $12 coffee. Now, if tax cuts are the appetizer, then the family benefits in this bill are the main course, served on a platter of pro-family rhetoric. The OBBB goes all in on making life more affordable for families. Who's going to argue with that? The centerpiece is doubling the child tax credit. That's a significant chunk of change that could make a real difference for parents juggling the costs of diapers, daycare. The bill also beefs up the standard deduction even further for families, which, combined with the tax cuts, aims to simplify the tax code and provide more upfront relief. But wait, there's more. It's like a policy infomercial. The bill also expands the use of 529 savings accounts, traditionally used for college, to now cover kindergarten through 12th grade private school tuition. It also includes new support for adoption, expanded childcare credits, and provisions for paid family leave. It's a comprehensive package designed to look incredibly appealing to anyone with kids or anyone thinking of having them. It paints a picture of a government that wants to help you raise your family, making things just a little bit easier and a whole lot cheaper. And now we get to the part that nobody wanted to mention, because for every big, beautiful benefit in this bill, there seems to be an equally big and frankly quite ugly cut somewhere else. In this case, the axe falls squarely on healthcare and nutrition programs. The OBBB proposes massive cuts to Medicaid, the health insurance program for low-income Americans, and SNAP, better known as food stamps. We're talking about cuts so deep they'd hit the Earth's core. The plan involves implementing stricter eligibility requirements and work mandates, which sounds reasonable on paper until you realize the bureaucratic nightmare it creates. The reality is that these changes risk kicking millions of people off their health insurance and taking food off their tables. These aren't abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. These are children, seniors, people with disabilities, and low-wage workers who rely on these programs to survive. For them, this isn't a belt-tightening measure, it's a lifeline being severed. The argument is that this will encourage self-sufficiency, but it's hard to be self-sufficient when you're choosing between life-saving medication and a carton of milk. This is the brutal trade-off at the heart of the OBBB to fund the beautiful parts of the bill. The most vulnerable among us are being asked to pay the price, a price measured in health, security, and basic human dignity. If you thought this bill was just about taxes and healthcare, you've clearly underestimated its ambition. The OBBB also moonlights as a massive spending package for defense and border security. We're talking about a significant boost in funding for the military and for building that famous wall. This is the big part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, with budget increases that would make a military contractor weep with joy. The promised outcome is a stronger national defense, more advanced weaponry, and a more technologically advanced, secure southern border. For communities near military bases or in the defense industry, this could mean a surge in jobs and economic activity. But, and you knew this was coming, where does all that money come from? Well, from you, the taxpayer. This isn't monopoly money. It's a direct allocation of your tax dollars towards more tanks, more drones, and more concrete. While supporters argue this is a necessary investment in national security, it also represents a massive financial commitment. It raises fundamental questions about our national priorities. Is the best use of hundreds of billions of dollars more military hardware, or could that money be used elsewhere? The OBBB makes its choice clear. It prioritizes a fortified defense and a physical border wall. And the bill for that ambitious vision will be paid for by everyone, whether you see the direct benefit or not. Just when you thought we'd covered all the bases, the OBBB takes a sharp turn into energy and environmental policy. And honestly, if you're a fan of, a habitable planet, you might want to sit down for this. The bill proposes a systematic rollback of clean energy incentives. Those tax credits that have helped fuel the growth of wind and solar power across the country? Gone. The incentives encouraging people to buy electric vehicles? See ya. This is less an energy policy and more of a love letter to the fossil fuel industry, gift-wrapped in deregulation. The logic seems to be that these green initiatives are a drag on the economy, and that unleashing the full power of oil, gas, and coal is the key to energy independence. The potential consequences, however, are stark. This could cripple the burgeoning renewable energy sector, leading to job losses in states that have invested heavily in wind and solar. And on a larger scale, it would likely lead to an increase in carbon emissions, making it significantly harder to address climate change. It's a bold move that essentially bets our entire long-term environmental future on the short-term economic benefits of fossil fuels. It's like trading in your brand new Tesla for a coal-powered steam engine because you heard coal is making a comeback. Okay, deep breath. We need to talk about the price tag for all of this. Because you can't have permanent tax cuts, massive family benefits, and a supersized military without it costing, well, a truly mind-boggling amount of money. The OBBB addresses this with a solution that is both simple and terrifying. It proposes hiking the debt ceiling by a cool $5 trillion. Yes, trillion with a T. That's not a typo, it's a number so large it barely seems real, like the distance to the next galaxy or the number of emails in your unread folder. This is essentially giving the government a new, much larger credit card and telling it to go wild. The projected impact on the national debt is, to put it mildly, staggering. Independent analyses suggest this bill would add somewhere between $3 to $4 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. This isn't just an accounting issue. It has real-world consequences. A ballooning national debt can lead to higher interest rates for everyone, meaning your mortgage, car loan, and credit card debt could all become more expensive. It could also fuel inflation, making everything you buy cost more. The OBBB is essentially a massive gamble on the idea that the economic growth spurred by the cuts will be so huge that it will eventually pay for itself, a theory that has, historically, a very spotty track record. It's a party now, pay later plan on a national scale. Finally, buried deep within the hundreds of pages of this legislative giant are a few quirky, lesser-known tweaks that are just too strange not to mention. It's the policy equivalent of finding a stray onion ring in your fries. For instance, there are new rules for gamblers. This provision would change how gambling winnings and losses are taxed, a detail that will be intensely interesting to your cousin who spends every weekend in Vegas and deeply uninteresting to everyone else. It's a classic example of a niche provision slipped into a massive bill, a little favor for a specific group. Then there are a couple of changes aimed at encouraging certain behaviors. The bill proposes expanding charitable deductions, allowing even people who don't itemize their taxes to get a break for donating to charity. That's actually a nice, simple idea to encourage giving. And in a uniquely specific made-in-the-USA twist, the OBBB would create a new tax deduction for the interest paid on auto loans. But, and here's the catch, only for cars built in the United States. It's a bizarrely specific piece of industrial policy tucked into a tax bill, a little reward for buying American. These smaller items might not be the main story, but they show the sheer breadth and, at times, the sheer weirdness of what's packed into this one big, beautiful bill. So there you have it, the one big, beautiful bill in all its sprawling, contradictory glory. On one hand, it offers tangible, short-term benefits for a huge number of Americans. Permanent tax cuts mean more money in your pocket. Expanded family benefits could provide real relief for parents struggling with costs. For many, especially in the middle class and those in service industries, this bill looks like a clear win, a promise of financial breathing room and support for raising a family. It's a compelling sales pitch, offering immediate gratification and a simpler, more generous tax code. But on the other hand, the long-term risks are monumental. To pay for these benefits, the bill takes a sledgehammer to the social safety net, potentially leaving millions of low-income Americans without healthcare or adequate food. It reverses course on clean energy at a critical moment for our planet's climate, and it piles trillions of dollars onto an already mountainous national debt, gambling our children's economic future on the hope that it all somehow works out in the end. It's a series of massive trade-offs, pitting short-term gains against long-term stability and compassion against fiscal policy. Ultimately, the OBBB is a reflection of a particular vision for America, one with lower taxes, a stronger military, and more support for traditional families, but also one with a smaller social safety net and a heavier reliance on fossil fuels. It's a bill of high stakes and deep divisions, where one person's big, beautiful win is another's devastating loss. The question isn't just whether the math adds up, but what kind of country we want to be. So is the OBBB a big win or a big risk? Let us know what you think in the comments.